Mason Rivera was 9 years old when he found the channel. It was a rainy Saturday afternoon in Cedar Hollow, Oregon. His mom was working a double shift at the hospital, and his older sister Tessa was at a friend's house. Mason had the living room to himself. A bowl of cereal, the remote, and the comforting glow of the TV. He was flipping through channels when he saw something strange. Between a cooking show and a news broadcast, there was a channel labeled CH13, Happy Harbor. Mason had never seen it before. The screen showed a colorful cartoon town by the sea. The animation style looked old, like something from the early 2000s. The sky was bright blue, the houses were painted in cheerful pastel colors, and a smiling lighthouse blinked like it had eyes. A theme song played. Welcome to Happy Harbor, where the sun will never set. Stay with us forever. The best day hasn't happened yet. The main character bounced onto the screen. A yellow, cat-like creature wearing red overalls and a captain's hat. Hi there, it chirped. I'm Sonny Skipper. What's your name? Mason giggled. It can't hear me, he muttered. But Sonny tilted its head. Ma son, it said slowly. Mason froze. He hadn't said his name out loud. The cartoon continued as if nothing strange had happened. Sonny introduced its friends. Bubbles, the blue octopus who worked at the ice cream stand, and Captain Grin, a tall sailor with an enormous painted-on smile. The episode was about preparing for the Forever Festival, a celebration that never ends. Mason leaned forward, curious. The animation was bright, but something felt off. The characters' eyes didn't blink. Their smiles never changed. And sometimes, just for a split second, the background flickered, like static. When the episode ended, instead of credits, Sonny walked back onto the screen. Don't go, Sonny said. It's not safe out there. The screen went black. Then the same episode started again. Mason frowned. He pressed the channel button. Nothing changed. He tried to switch inputs. Still CH13. The volume button stopped working. Sonny turned to face the screen again. Stay with us, Mason. This time, Mason screamed. He grabbed the remote and yanked the batteries out. The TV stayed on. The cartoon kept playing. Now Sonny wasn't smiling. Its mouth stretched too wide. Its eyes, once bright and round, were large black circles. You don't want to leave, right? Sonny whispered. Mason backed away from the couch. The rain outside had stopped. The house felt too quiet. The cartoon suddenly cut to a new scene. A house. It looked familiar. Blue siding, white porch railing. Mason's stomach dropped. It was his house. Animated. Sonny stood on the porch. It knocked on the door. Knock, knock, knock. At that exact moment. Knock, knock, knock. Mason spun toward the real front door. Someone was knocking. His breathing became sharp and shallow. No, he whispered. The TV showed animated Mason walking toward the animated door. Sonny turned to the screen. It's time. The knocking continued. Knock, knock, knock. Slow. Steady. Mason grabbed his phone and called his mom. No signal. He tried texting Tessa. Message failed. The TV flickered. Now the animated Mason opened the door. Sonny stood there, taller than before, its body stretching like melting wax. Forever Festival, it said. The animated Mason was pulled outside. The door slammed shut. On the TV screen, the house windows went dark. Then, the screen showed the real living room. Mason's living room. From the corner near the ceiling, like a hidden camera. He saw himself standing there, frozen. The animated Sonny was no longer in the cartoon town. It was behind him, on the TV screen, standing in the corner of his real living room. Mason slowly turned around. Nothing was there. He looked back at the TV. Sonny was closer, almost there. It whispered. The knocking stopped. Now there was scratching at the door. Long, dragging scratches. Mason ran to his room and slammed the door shut. He pulled the blanket over his head like he used to when he was little. The theme song started playing again, but slower, distorted. Welcome to Happy Harbor, where you'll never grow old. The TV's volume grew louder, even though it was in the living room. The sound filled the entire house. Mason's bedroom TV, which he hadn't turned on in months, flickered to life. CH-13. Sonny stood there staring directly at him. "You can't hide," it said softly. The screen began to glitch. For a split second, Mason saw something underneath the cartoon. Darkness. Endless darkness. And inside it, shapes. Hundreds of shapes. Small figures. Children, standing still. Their eyes hollow. Their smiles painted on. Sonny stepped closer to the screen. "You're lonely, Mason. We know that." Mason's chest tightened. His dad had moved out 6 months ago. The house did feel emptier. The cartoon town suddenly looked brighter than ever. Sonny extended a paw toward the screen. "We'll stay with you forever." The TV screen cracked down the middle. Not the glass. The image. Like it was a window. A hand reached through. Yellow fur. Long fingers. Mason screamed and threw his desk chair at the TV. The screen shattered. Glass sprayed across the room. The sound stopped instantly. Silence. Heavy silence. Mason's breathing echoed in the dark. The power went out. The entire house was black. He could hear the wind outside again. Then, a faint humming. From the hallway. The theme song. Soft. Whispered. Mason crept toward his bedroom door. The hallway light flickered back on. The living room TV was off. Shattered. Dark. The front door was covered in deep claw marks, but it was still locked. He ran to it. Checked the deadbolt. Still secure. There was no one outside. No footprints. No movement. Everything looked normal, except for the silence. Too normal. He turned around slowly. The TV in the living room turned on by itself. The screen was cracked, but it still glowed. Sonny appeared again. But this time, it wasn't in Happy Harbor. It was standing in a black void. Alone. "You broke the screen," Sonny said calmly. That was rude. Mason backed away. Sonny's smile slowly returned. "That's okay. We don't need screens anymore." The lights in the house began turning off one by one. Kitchen. Hallway. Bedroom. Only the living room light remained. Flickering. Sonny stepped closer to the camera. Now Mason could see something new. Behind Sonny stood rows of children. Real children. Not animated. Their faces pale. Their eyes empty. Each one wearing bright cartoon clothes. Sonny's voice grew softer. They stayed. One of the children lifted its head. Mason recognized him. It was Liam, a kid from school who had moved away suddenly last year. "Stay," Liam whispered. The living room light went out. Complete darkness. Mason felt something brush against his leg. Soft fur. Cold. He couldn't breathe. A whisper in his ear. Forever Festival. The next morning, Tessa came home. The front door was locked. The house was quiet. The living room TV was shattered. Glass everywhere. "Mason?" she called. No answer. She checked his room. Empty. His phone was on the bed. His blanket on the floor. The police searched for weeks. No sign of forced entry. No fingerprints except family. No footprints outside. Just deep scratch marks on the front door. The case went cold. 3 months later, in a small town in Arizona, a mother was flipping through channels when her daughter gasped. "Mom, look!" On CH-13, a colorful cartoon played. Happy Harbor. Sonny Skipper waved at the screen. And standing beside Sonny, a new character. A boy wearing a Cedar Hollow elementary hoodie. His eyes hollow. his smile wide and painted on. Sonny grinned at the camera. "Say hi, Mason." The boy's mouth moved slowly. "Stay with us." The theme song played. Bright, cheerful, endless. Welcome to Happy Harbor, where the sun will never set. And somewhere inside that glowing cartoon town, another forever festival had begun. When 11-year-old Avery McLeod woke up that morning in Thunder Bay, Ontario, the world outside her window was completely white. Not just covered in snow, buried in it. The pine trees behind her house were bent under heavy drifts. The streetlights were barely visible, and the snowplows hadn't even started yet. School was cancelled before sunrise. A perfect snow day. Her dad had already left for an early shift at the mill, and her mom was working remotely downstairs. Avery wrapped herself in a thick blanket, made hot chocolate with too many marshmallows, and turned on the TV in the living room. Most channels were running regular programming. Morning news from Toronto, weather updates about the blizzard sweeping across Ontario. But then she noticed something strange. A channel she had never seen before. Channel 77, Northern Smiles. The title card showed a bright cartoon forest dusted in glittering snow. Friendly moose waved at the camera. Beavers built colorful dams. A smiling polar bear in a red scarf stood beside a wooden sign that read, "Welcome to Frostwood Forever." The theme song chimed cheerfully. "In Frostwood Forest, don't you fear. Winter stays all through the year. Laugh and play in endless snow. There's no place else you need to go." Avery smiled. It looked harmless. A little old-fashioned, maybe from the early 2000s. The animation wasn't modern and sleek like new shows. It had soft outlines and slightly stiff movements. The polar bear stepped forward. "Hi there, friend," he boomed warmly. "I'm Benny the bear. What's your name?" Avery rolled her eyes. "You can't hear me," she muttered. Benny tilted his head. "Avery," he said gently. Her mug slipped in her hands, hot chocolate splashing onto the blanket. She hadn't said her name out loud. The show continued. Benny introduced his friends. Maple the red fox who ran the syrup shack, Ollie the moose who drove the snowplow, and Piper the snowy owl who watched over everyone. The episode was about preparing for the Great Snow Day celebration, an event that happened every day forever. Avery noticed something unsettling. The sky in Frostwood never changed. It was always the same pale blue. The snow never melted. The characters never blinked. And every time they laughed, it sounded slightly off. Like the audio was layered twice, a faint echo just behind the main sound. Halfway through the episode, the screen flickered. For a split second, the forest disappeared. Behind it was darkness, endless and black. Then it snapped back to cheerful snow. Avery reached for the remote. The channel wouldn't change. She pressed the volume button. Nothing. Benny turned toward the camera again. "You don't want to leave, do you?" he asked softly. The smile on his face didn't move, but his eyes did. They shifted slightly downward, like he was looking at her through the screen. "I didn't say that," Avery whispered. The episode ended without credits. Instead, the characters stood together in the forest clearing. Snow fell gently around them. "We're so glad you're here, Avery," Maple the fox said. The snow outside Avery's real window suddenly intensified, slamming against the glass with a harsh, icy rattle. The TV showed a small wooden cabin appearing in Frostwood Forest. It looked exactly like her house. The gray siding, the narrow porch, even the blue recycling bin by the steps. Her stomach twisted. "That's not funny," she whispered. Benny knocked on the animated cabin door. Knock, knock, knock. At that exact moment, knock, 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 Avery jumped. Someone was knocking on her real front door. But that was impossible. The roads were blocked. No one could get through the storm. The knocking came again. Slow, heavy, like something massive pressing its paw against the wood. Her mom called from downstairs. "Avery? Did you hear that?" Before Avery could answer, the TV changed scenes. The cartoon version of her house door opened. Inside stood a drawn version of her. Same pajamas. Same messy braid. Benny's voice softened. "Come celebrate." The animated Avery stepped outside into the snow. The cabin door shut. The windows went dark. On the real TV screen, the cartoon zoomed out. The cabin was now deep in frostwood forest, surrounded by towering trees. Trapped. Avery's breathing became shallow. "I'm not going outside," she whispered. Benny's head slowly turned toward the camera again. "We can come in." The screen glitched violently. For a moment, the characters' bright fur and scarves disappeared. Underneath, they weren't fully drawn. Their outlines were jagged, incomplete. And behind them, shapes, small shapes in the trees. Children, standing perfectly still, wearing winter coats, their faces pale, their eyes hollow. The TV volume increased on its own. The theme song returned, slower and distorted. Winter stays, all through the year. The knocking at the door became pounding. Her mom shouted from downstairs, "I'm calling someone!" The TV flickered to show a new scene. It wasn't Frostwood anymore. It was Avery's living room, animated, from the corner near the ceiling, like a hidden camera. She saw herself on the couch, frozen. The cartoon Benny stood behind her. In her real living room, Avery spun around. Nothing there. She looked back at the screen. Benny was closer, his red scarf now darker, almost stained. "Blizzards can be lonely," he said gently. The lights flickered. The power cut out for half a second. When it came back, every TV in the house was on. The one in her parents' bedroom, the small one in the kitchen, all tuned to channel 77, all showing Frostwood Forest. Her mom screamed downstairs. Avery ran to the hallway. Her mom stood frozen in front of the kitchen TV. On the screen, Maple the fox waved. "Parents are welcome too," Maple chimed sweetly. Behind Maple stood more children now. Dozens, bundled in winter jackets, snow covering their shoulders. One of them turned toward the screen. Avery recognized him. Noah Tremblay, a boy from her school who had disappeared last winter during a snowstorm while walking home. His case had been all over the local news. He looked thinner, paler, but he was smiling. "Noah?" Avery whispered. Noah's mouth moved slowly. "It's warmer here." The snow outside slammed violently against the windows. The pounding on the front door stopped. Now there was scratching, long claws dragging down the wood. Benny appeared on all the screens at once. "You can't leave during a blizzard," he said kindly. "It's not safe." The house temperature suddenly dropped. Their breath fogged in the air. Frost began creeping across the inside of the windows. Her mom grabbed Avery's hand. "This isn't real," her mom whispered. But the cartoon cabin door on screen slowly opened again. Inside it was dark, deep, endless darkness. Snow drifted inside the doorway. "Step in," Piper the owl whispered. The children behind them began humming the theme song. Soft, slow, in perfect unison. The TV screens began to crack. Not the glass, the image itself, like thin ice splitting across a frozen lake. A hand pushed through. White fur, clawed fingers. Avery's mom grabbed a heavy lamp and hurled it at the kitchen TV. The screen shattered. Instant silence. The other TVS flickered violently. The forest glitched. The children's faces distorted. Benny's smile faltered for the first time. "That was unkind," he said softly. The lights went out completely. Darkness filled the house. Outside, the storm stopped abruptly. Not faded. Stopped. Like someone flipped a switch. The silence was worse than the wind. Avery felt something brush against her coat sleeve. Soft, cold. A whisper near her ear. Snow days last forever. The power surged back. Every TV was off. The house was normal. The windows clear. The storm outside reduced to gentle falling flakes. Her mom stared at her. "We're unplugging everything," she said shakily. They unplugged every television in the house, wrapped the cords tight. Her dad came home hours later once the roads cleared. He didn't believe them at first, until he saw the scratch marks carved deep into the front door. 4 long claw lines, too large to be human. No animal tracks in the snow. Nothing but smooth white drifts. The next week, Channel 77 was gone. No listing, no trace. The cable company said it never existed. Months passed. Winter melted into spring. The fear slowly faded, until the first snowfall the following November. Avery was at a friend's house for a sleepover in Winnipeg. They were flipping through channels, laughing, eating popcorn. And then, Channel 77 appeared. Northern Smiles. The screen glowed with bright snow and cheerful trees. Benny the bear waved, but he wasn't alone anymore. Standing beside him was a new cartoon girl. Brown braid, blue pajamas, eyes hollow, smile wide and fixed. Benny grinned warmly at the camera. "Say hello, Avery." The cartoon girl's mouth moved. "Stay inside," she whispered. The theme song played brightly. "In Frostwood Forest, don't you fear. Winter stays all through the year." Outside, the snowfall began to thicken, and somewhere deep in a forest that never thawed, the great snow day celebration continued. Forever.